That's true. Or I could just use the same one twice.
No, we'll change it.
No, but I meant just that high.
No, we'll change it.
Yeah, well, I'm editing it, so I'll do what I want to do.
Change it.
Yes, whatever
Let's
you
just do
decide.
two, because I feel like it's nice and unique.
Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1. Hey, I'm Sarah.
I'm Alisha.
And I'm Jazzy, and we are the Girlies that read. Just yap for a bit, and then I'm going to stop.
Yappity yappity yap yap yap.
Oh, no, like, no, as in, like, we genuinely stop.
Yep.
So today we are discussing our April book club pick, which was A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. I keep forgetting her surname.
I keep trying to say it as Nokovic, like the the tennis player.
Wait, is she?
No.
No,
Okay.
No, she's not related.
Naomi Novik. I did put this book up for our book club.
And you
And I'm
won.
going to start this video by saying I'm sorry. I apologise profusely.
I will want to just note that we will never, ever, ever bash on the author or their work or their career because we didn't like a book they wrote.
Yeah.
That's not how we roll. That's not what we encourage.
It's
at
still
all.
a good book, and some, like, people would like
the
it.
trilogy, we stopped at book 1.
Yes.
We barely got through book 1, but that's another
But I
point.
think that's the healthy part about this is that we're having a discussion.
Yeah.
It's just our opinion.
Yeah.
We're allowed to dislike things. We're allowed to like things.
Yeah.
But I'm better than you because I read the whole.
I agree. I agree. I DNF books really
She
quickly.
decided to torture herself with 3 books.
I
only apologise for the first one. The rest is all on
No,
you.
I actually, I won't say too much about all 3, but I genuinely think it got better. Like, the storyline was definitely more developed, and the 3rd book had so many callbacks to the first book. Like, it was clearly planted there, but you didn't get that from book 1.
Yeah.
And that's why it was a bit sad.
Book 1 was definitely a struggle, and we will talk about what struggles we did have.
When we
I
get
think,
to it.
Again, I think we kind of all picked up very similar struggles.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, we all read very similar books, and we were discussing our last episode how we are very character driven and not like so much plot driven.
Yeah.
And so if we don't like something about a character, that's going to be a main thing.
Because we're going to
really
talk about
hope
some
that
interesting stuff.
if you've read this book, that you enjoy this discussion. I just want to see if this is like the general opinion of all other readers out there, if it's just us, because there's a certain character we'll get into, and it was just really frustrating to get through the entire arc because of that one character, but that was a plot device used later. So I wonder if that holds much strength for the rest of the readers at all, or if it was just like not needed.
Well, it has a 3.95. I'm going to round up to 4-star rating on Goodreads, so it's not like it's horrible. It's not a trash book. There are definitely things that we really enjoyed, but there are certain things we also didn't enjoy.
It's also because it was compared to Harry Potter and like a dark
Academia.
That kind of genre of.
You really do treat me like a thesaurus. I'm just saying.
Love you.
Well, we discussed this.
Some words are hard to pronounce, and I really struggle with it. But whatever. It was marketed as a book that fits within that kind of lore of Harry Potter and stuff. And
that's a lot to live up to.
Exactly. And I think once we had that mindset going in after reading
it kind of put us back.
Comparisons, it was just a bigger setback than we expected it to be.
Yeah.
That's why I think it was like more jarring of a experience that we had compared to what we would have might have had had we literally picked up the book based on the cover like you did.
Yes.
Well, that's why I bought it. It's not why I chose to... Actually, no, it is basically... I picked a book at random because I didn't know what I wanted to read for April when I went, here's a book off my shelf I haven't touched.
Might as
and
well.
I've owned it for a couple years.
From now on,
we're
going to read the blurb and maybe a few reviews before.
maybe.
That's no fun.
A Deadly Education is set in the Scholomance, a deadly teacher-less magical school where students must earn magical energy and fight off monsters to survive until graduation. Graduation means fighting your way out through a monster pit. Survival is the only curriculum, from what I can tell.
Pretty much.
The school constantly shifts. Kind of think about Harry Potter and the shifting stairs. Alliances are strategic. The students learn through sheer necessity. And the world introduces unique elements like spells appear in random languages. We have different words for like the magical creatures and things that we'll get into. And there's a lot of mundane, morally grey tasks that the students have to perform in order to survive to graduation. And there's a bunch of different conclaves that kind of rule over or like are the authority of magic
in the world.
And
outside
it's
the
basically
school.
like a refuge where students want to enter good magical conclaves to be supported in their endeavors and also to be protected from monsters. Well, let us start with who the main characters are. Gadriel goes by L,
which is a name for starters.
Yep, Gadriel goes by L.
Another author that nicknames their characters because of terrible full names. Anyway, moving on.
The next main character is Orion. Orion is the guy who basically...
Orion!
I called him Orion.
Like, I called him Orion, like the constellation.
That's how we go.
It's Orion.
I called him Orion.
It's Orion.
I have a
look, that is the way.
Is Orion, and it's spelled exactly like that.
Well, that's how the constellation's spelled. So that's I went with Orion.
That's why I went with. I'm not saying you're wrong. It's
not. I don't think
she is wrong.
Yeah.
But this isn't like a deep fantasy.
I have a friend who's named Orion, and it's
that's fair.
Exactly the same.
But it's not like this is like a high fantasy book with like the pronunciation guide. So
it doesn't matter. Orion, Orion, whatever you'd like to say. Either way,
he looks like. Let's just give him another random nickname because why not?
He looks like Draco Malfoy. White, silver hair kind of thing.
That's not how I pictured him at all. Anyway.
And I will say, those are the only two characters that even matter throughout.
Honestly cannot remember a single other character's name.
I can't.
I read the whole trilogy.
Even Elle's mum. No idea what her name is.
Elle's mum. You don't meet her. Yeah, so this book is their second last year in the school.
So they would be juniors for the American
I don't know what system. It is. So they're
year 11 for Australia.
Yeah, year 11. So they're not quite ready to leave and try and graduate through the monster pit, but they're trying to work their way up there and build their spell set, their skills, build their magical item collection and their alliances with the conclaves so that they have a good group of students together for when they go through the monster pit. Basically, that's what this book's about.
Yeah, and it centers around Elle and her basically journey to get to that point. And so Elle is basically from the start of the book, Elle tells us that she's this powerhouse basically. She's got all this power and she's so powerful and she can do all these things, but she chooses not to because why would she do that?
But also, it's a bit like she has all this potential to do that, but she doesn't have the magic to back it up. And that's one of her issues through, like, the whole series, but also this book.
I feel like this discussion's also going to be like... because you have the whole trilogy to base your thoughts off of, whereas we just have book one.
But it's interesting.
We're going to be, so much focused on, how we felt the first book went, but you've got all this extra...
Oh, she doesn't feel much different, to be honest.
It's very much the same.
I'm just, you know how, basically, when you have different levels of knowledge on something, the way you formulate your opinions and the way you explain things.
Absolutely.
And she can also then, Jazzy can jump to the end of the book and go, this makes sense from book one because this happened.
Yeah.
And so this conversation will be quite interesting because I feel like that's going to happen a lot.
Yeah.
And she'll be
to be fair, she did explain the entire plot.
I did explain it
to me
on call. Audio message. Oh no, on call.
I got a very brief rundown. I was like, okay, that's not worth it.
Yeah. But the whole first book, she's trying to build up her energy and her mana and store it in the mana crystals.
Mana is the magic.
Yeah, her magic basically. And so she's trying to build it up so that she has that stored when she gets to that boss battle at the end of her final year.
Yeah.
And so it's she has all this potential for these dark sorceress spells, but she doesn't have the opportunity to build up that magic and keep it because she's constantly under threat by all the monsters in the school. And that's why you want to be in the conclave when you finish school. But is it conclave? Enclave? Enclave. Sorry.
I call it conclave as well.
No, that's okay.
Conclave is Shadowhunters.
I was like, that's so correct.
Sense.
But you want to be in that enclave when you leave school. But if you were already, your family was already in it earlier, or if you're one of their kids or aligned with them, you're already on the in and have that power sharing.
Yeah, they basically
potential.
they have a stock of magic they can access at any point, but she doesn't have that
because she's an outcast.
Yeah. But also, I kind of feel a little bit. and was one of my pet peeves, is that she makes herself an outcast. She doesn't try.
That's the whole plot, I feel.
Yeah. Which is, so we're probably going to jump in. So let's just jump straight into the story.
Go.
Of discussing the story. Because her whole thing that she spends, well, the entire first book complaining about, until like towards like maybe the last couple chapters, is that she has no friends.
Yeah.
Doesn't have anybody to team up with, because she's got this prophecy that's hanging over her head that her great-grandmother told her or something, that she was going to destroy the world. But also, like, she has this
because she smells.
Head, and so all these people have rejected her in her life, so she doesn't bother.
Yeah. She doesn't shower because there's no one to watch her back when she's showering.
She literally stinks. Because nowhere is safe in Scholomance.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, so she spends like this whole, she spends this whole time going, well, no one's going to like me, so why would I bother? Yeah. And then complains about it. Like, I'm sorry, you've done this to yourself.
Yeah. I was going to say, do we want to start with the positives? Because I feel like we should get that out the way, because
okay, sure.
We would never touch on it.
You put in my likes.
I'm looking at your list and you have 2 likes and almost twice as many dislikes. Sorry, it was funny.
Oh my god, you can see that on the screen as well.
It was just really funny looking at it.
So basically, my main like is the premise. So basically, the whole concept that there is a magical school that does not give a shit about its students. Basically, they just get put in a box and went, you can stay here for 4 years, and if you survive, you survive. If you don't, well, I'll too bad.
And there's no reigning authority except the school itself.
Yeah, pretty much like
teachers.
It's like what would happen if you chucked a whole bunch of students into a school with no authority, but like and they couldn't leave. What would happen? But then add that extra layer of
but they also
have to fight to survive,
under attack constantly by monsters.
Literally, like their bedrooms aren't safe, the bathroom's not safe, the hallway's not safe, the dining room's not safe.
A literal plot point
the
where
classrooms aren't safe.
Someone pushes someone in the void just for a room.
Yeah. Literally just to get a better room.
Ruthless.
They literally, like, this one person does end up throwing someone into a void, because also this school does sit in the middle of a void, by the way. That's also
it
mentioned.
So
like,
because it's magic, you know.
Yeah.
That was the concept explained.
Yeah, but that was basically like that whole premise I really did like, and I liked the monsters. I liked the fact that there was numerous monsters. We got very little description for some of them. Some of them were very vividly described.
Can you remind me, what was the most, or was it like the Moormouth?
The Moormouth was like meant to be the most deadly creature or monster that there was.
I don't remember many others.
I remember the spider one because
the leeches,
the siren
head,
spider.
And there was a
I remember the spider because it's a spider, so I would not forget that. That's also another pet peeve of mine with fantasy books and monsters. There's always a bloody spider.
Yeah, now, these were siren
please, they're not necessary. They don't need to exist. But yeah, so the premise and the monsters, I'm sad to say, like, are the only 2 things I liked about this book.
No,
altogether.
That's more than me, sorry.
Oh, so should you go next?
Maybe you should go next.
I'll go next.
She can finish us off.
Lol. I did really enjoy this book for like quite a few things. And I just stuck to my likes from the first book. But if you look at it within the scope of the trilogy, it makes more sense. But anyway, I digress.
Sticking to the first book,
I thought it was really interesting. The whole time, Elle is stuck in the school and she's frustrated by it, and she's like, it's kind of whining, but anyway, she's frustrated.
Kinda.
Well, she's frustrated because she's
I'm just
stuck.
going to pop the definition of kinda right here.
I will put the song that I'm planning to use and the lyrics
in the description.
Yes.
But like she's stuck within that education system and she can't get out of it. Like, well, everyone is, but she's also frustrated by the whole system of there being the enclaves and that they have that power, like that foot up, and she doesn't because she's alone. No, but she was so frustrated by it, but she didn't have that power to change anything because she was alone. So she couldn't tackle the system because she's within the system. Like, you know, like, I don't know, like Divergent or whatever. They tackle the system, but they break the system. Well, she couldn't because she's stuck in it. Anyway, I liked that, like, kind of monologue. Anyway, next thing, I have 4 things I wrote.
No way.
I wrote 4 things.
Turns out she's just like subcategories.
I also really enjoyed this. No, I'm joking. I liked the social politics. I like what you said, Sarah. Like, you know, you drop all these kids in this school, there's no teachers, there's no authority. Like, the school changes in the, like, landscape, but it doesn't really, like, you know, give them the social law or, you know, what rules there are. So there's all these teens who just kind of have to survive and make the rules as they go. But you only make the rules because you have the power, which is what happens with the enclave kids.
It falls into basically a clique system.
It does.
Which is very typical of any school. Like, no matter where you go, there's always going to be a clique system.
Yeah. And there's all those alliances. Yeah, and Ellie's a victim of it because she doesn't have any alliances.
I feel like she's
well, for a little bit, for the start.
She makes herself the victim of it.
Well, yes, but anyway. But I really enjoyed the trading aspect.
I really need to not team up on it right now.
I'm trying to say good things about this book.
I agree. I totally support where you're coming from.
But like I wanted to see more of their alliances and trading, which kind of did come in later books. But like, I can't even remember an example, but it's like, you know, if you wanted someone to watch your back when you went to the shower, it's like, well, you were either aligned, like you had that pact, or you traded something for it.
Yeah.
So you kind of had to give them some magic so that they could use it for whatever, or like, it was really interesting to see the rules.
The whole point of like we said, like one guy pushed another in the void just for a room.
Yeah.
And exactly that, like if you couldn't just trust people because
if they said
they would just kill you.
Yeah, like, legit.
Be done with this one.
Yeah, and people also always choose themselves over you first. So
because they
like,
had to.
There's lots of moments where like monsters pop up in like the cafeteria or the classroom or whatever. People don't stay to fight, like protect each other.
No,
it's last left there. You have to save yourself.
Survival of the fittest.
Yeah, like they're gone.
Yeah,
it doesn't like older kids won't protect younger kids.
No,
like
they won't waste their magic.
The only
like sacrifice those.
Yeah, and they're more likely to like. Generally, like if you're in the alliance, they're more likely to stick together to help save each other.
So you kind of have to be in an alliance.
Even then, that's not guaranteed. I feel like it was very much like you really do have to put yourself first.
Yeah. Exactly. Wait, did they? No, it was a good point. Did they talk about the maintenance track in the first book? I can't remember.
Do. So the maintenance track is brought up, I think, about maybe halfway through.
Yeah. So there's different like what do you call specialties
or like it's like going for a degree, like you pick your degree that you're
like
going
masters
after,
or whatever.
And so it's basically like different magical talents that you can specialize in.
So there's like, you know, being I can't even remember what they are.
Look, one's kind of like a mechanic, like you build shit.
An artificer?
Honestly, don't even try and get me on the terminology.
And one was like an alchemist. Like they were all smart, but you were smart in that field. Yeah. And so if you needed someone else to help you on your project, you had to make alliance.
Yeah, because she was like good with Sanskrit and stuff. Wow.
Yeah, she was like a language
student. So be someone who specializes in language. Yeah. Because the magic system does include having like different spells in different languages. So you need to be able to speak that language to learn that spell.
Yeah. And so her specialty was translating. Yeah. And then so she
had like 4 or 5 languages.
She had so many. Yeah. I forgot where I was going with this.
She did mine.
No, sorry. Yeah, my point was that the maintenance track, so the maintenance specialty kid wasn't a real skill.
It was something they made up.
It was something the students made up because they saw that alliances would get them further. And so if I was someone and I had no power, like Elle, and I was an outcast, maybe I could stinge off someone else and I'd help them do the dirty work of their assignments, but maybe they'd take me with them and I'd survive the school.
The maintenance track also though focused a lot on, just to expand on it a little bit, was so like each student also had to do like
chores almost,
like a chore, like a chore session. And so they had to go somewhere in the school to do some form of chore that could be fixing something, cleaning something, and these are also extremely dangerous
because a way of trading for
and they so rather than basically like the popular kids, rather than them having to do the dirty work, they would get people into their alliance
who
don't have much power or don't have much chance of getting in any other way, and would say, okay, well then you can all go do the dirty work while we sit here and
learn our fancy spells,
whatever.
But they offer protection to an extent.
But so like that, so like students have made this up as like an extra way to get in if they had nothing else to offer.
School.
It's very it's vengeful. like conniving, I feel like.
I feel like out of all Hogwarts houses, Hufflepuffs are most likely to kill people. Just saying.
Yeah.
So I'm a Hufflepuff.
That I believe.
I want to be a Hufflepuff, but I keep getting Ravenclaw.
I'm a Slytherin.
Anyway, sorry. My third point. I have two more. I promise. I'm almost done.
We're gonna be here forever. No, I'm kidding.
No. Anyway, there were good merits to this book. I enjoy.
Honestly, though, sorry, it is good though that we have.
Yeah, for sure.
It was very easily this whole video could have been us just talking
like
negative.
ranting and.
Yeah, that's why I said let's start with the positives.
Yeah,
but
even though we keep.
There are things I dislike. But anyway,
we'll get to that.
I like the fake dating trope. Like I think it's kind of a funnish trope, but it can be.
He didn't know.
That's why I find it. No, there are spoilers in this.
No, that's not what I meant. I meant that she's going negative again. Like,
no. What I'm saying is, I think this was done differently because the thing was, Orion approaches her. And, like, then people assume they're dating. And she's like, oh, this will help me because now I have a social standing. Yeah. So she continues.
He's super popular.
Yeah, because he's, like, the most popular dude. And, like, whatever. Anyway. He's, like, the nicest. I don't know, anyway. So, then, because she's like, this will help me, she eggs it on and continues it. Yeah. And the whole book, she's like, what? Like, will this make me look like I'm dating him? Or I shouldn't say this because, if I was his girlfriend, I wouldn't say that. And so the whole book, she's thinking, like, this is to help me, this is to help me. And then the end of the book goes, and he's like, I've been dating you for, like, however long it was, and you didn't realise? She goes, we're dating?
She's going around telling everyone we're dating.
But they're dating. So it was funny because he was trying to date her and she didn't know, but also she was using him as her boyfriend,
but also
he didn't know.
She thought he didn't realise they were fake dating.
Yeah.
They were dating, and she thought they were fake dating.
It was like miscommunication on top of miscommunication.
But it wasn't like annoying miscommunication. Like I thought it was funny.
It was funny. Yeah.
And I thought that was a really interesting take on it because most of the time when they're fake dating, they both agree on it. And it's to get
get benefits out of it.
Yeah, no, it was so funny. Yeah, it was funny. Yeah. I liked it. And then, I did like the magic system as well. I thought it was quite interesting.
I did think, the magic system was definitely different. It's not really something I've ever, mana is a thing I've seen before, but just the way they've done it was different.
But also, I'm married and my husband watches Solo Leveling, so henceforth I watch Solo Leveling, which is
it's an anime.
It's an anime. It's really good.
It just sounds like an anime.
Yeah, it is. So if you watch it, please, it's really good. Put something in the comments. But no, in this thing, it's like he has magic to fight monsters and he builds up his mana, and so he has to do exercises to build up that magic. And so I came into this already kind of understanding that. But the fact that she has mana crystals and can then go do the exercise and store that magic to use later, I was like, that's so cool.
Oh, funny. Just side note, funniest thing ever was the crocheting.
Oh my god,
I love it. Was hilarious. I was like, that's the most random thing ever.
Of Iron Flame or Onyx Storm, whichever one, where they're trying to learn the runes and stuff. And
that's Iron Flame, I think.
They do them in Iron Flame and in Onyx.
No, when Xaden gave her the book to practice, that was
tricking her into learning it.
Yeah.
Storm, they were actually having classes where.
Maybe it was Onyx Storm.
They're traveling to thingy to go into the
and I was like, I get it, but crocheting was just like
it was so fun. It was so random. It was out of everything that she could have gone with, it was crocheting.
But it was because it was something like the more you disliked it or the harder it was for you, the more magic ability you got out of it.
The easier something becomes, the less mana you build up. The harder something.
So if she just did push-ups the entire time, eventually
she was so fit. The mana building was quite slow.
Versus
she hated crocheting so much.
So that was working for her.
So basically taught yourself with skill that you hate.
Yeah. Anyway. That was my last point. I really enjoyed it.
What did you like, Alisha?
What I liked about this book was this was probably the first book
that
I've
it
read.
ended. Sorry.
First book I've read and forever where the character was not only half Indian, but she was actually the same place where I come from. So she was Marathi.
Post
and I'm Marathi.
Like in region?
Same region.
Same region,
Yeah.
So she was Maharashtrian, and that's me. And that was really
wild,
cool to see, because I was like, that is so niche and random, because usually, they would just be like, stick with Mumbai and go with Mumbai or Delhi or whatever, and that's it. And
they normally pick the more common.
Yeah, and Marathi was random because, well, historically speaking, it was probably the bigger part of India, but we won't go into that. But that was really cool, and I think when I first read that, I was like, actually like, oh, what? That was cool. And she also speaks Marathi and Sanskrit and Hindi, so I was like, that's cool that I can speak all of that as well. So I liked seeing like that was pretty fun part. But as I go into this book, I'll tell you why I didn't like the rest of it. And the other thing I really liked was the same thing as you said, like the fake dating thing, which it was just hilarious how she was dating, well, she was pretending to date him for like the support. He's actually trying to date her, and he thinks they're dating, and she's like, but I thought we were just pretending and that you didn't know. I was telling people and whatnot, and it was just so random and so chaotic, and I was like, my 17-year-old brain would totally pull something like that. And I was just hilarious.
I actually think one of my favourite parts about that, though, is like, what does that say about his dating ability? If he thought they were dating, but she didn't realise that he was actually trying to date her?
Yeah.
Like, that part, that's so funny.
It was just so chaotic, and I was like, that is so high school typical. Like, that was fun. And I will say that another thing that I liked, but not liked as in like I would recommend this book based on that. I like that. Okay, this just made me laugh out loud, because I picked up this book before these two and started reading it before these two. So that don't. I know what you're gonna say. Don't do it.
Someone doesn't know what a book of the month means. April book
I
in March.
was reading this book, and I started reading it before them, and Elle has a very annoying trait where she just constantly complains and yaps and complains and victimizes herself and complains, and that's the main reason why it was so hard to get through this book. But there's this scene, it literally in the first chapter or so, where she's like, okay guys, I need to go to the attic or something, and I'm like, can someone come with me? And then Orion's like, yeah, I'll come. Yeah,
or whatever it was, yeah.
And Orion was like, yeah, I'll come. And as soon as they go away from the rest of the people, she's just like, how dare you come with me? Why did you come with me? Are you trying to upstage me? And I'm just like, you asked for help.
But also, wouldn't you want him to come, given that he's the most powerful and he has the best chance of surviving all the monsters?
Her entire inner dialogue and monologue was just like, he's just trying to upstage me. He's just trying to save my life. And I was like, girl, relax.
Let him save you. Let him save you.
What is happening? And that part, like, that's when I messaged our group chat, and I was just like, guys, she just whines like constantly.
Okay, I think that's a perfect lead into what we didn't like about this story.
Was there anything else you liked?
No, that's pretty bad.
I think we can all agree though that this book was very, very heavy on the inner monologue.
Yeah.
And the whole time
it was just lore dumping.
Yeah, and it was just 90. I can say, like, if we're going to go off percentages, 80% of it was her whining about stuff.
Yeah.
And the other 20 was just background.
Yeah.
And it was just, it made it for a short, the book's like 300 pages. It's not long.
Not big.
But it felt long.
It's not that.
That's it.
Like, it felt like a really long read.
And it's not one of those tall books either. It's,
no. Like, normally a book like that I would finish in like maybe 2 days. Like, if I'm not rushing.
It's like just over 300 pages,
Yeah, and normally like in a sitting, my average, this might sound like a brag, but like it might not be a brag, it might be really sad, but off an average of a physical book, because I only read physical books.
Can't relate.
Can't relate to that.
I don't own a Kindle, so like, and I liked having, like, it's a physical, like, I love holding the book and smelling the pages. But, so, on average...
But not this book. Can't enjoy smelling the pages.
I'll read about 150 pages, 170 pages a sitting.
Yeah. But will that take like an hour and a half?
It depends really on the book, how fast.
So.
Like I recently read a series that was very, very dense.
Yeah, it takes longer.
It takes me much longer to read those pages versus this is not that type of dense book. So normally it wouldn't have taken me very long, but it took me like 6 days to get through it.
Should have taken me like a few hours, and one sitting should have been done.
Yeah, for your Kindle, like but no, like it was a struggle to get through, and I think it's because it was just very hard to read, with the sense of like, if you like, I'm
getting in her perspective.
I don't mind inner monologue. I think inner monologue could be quite important, but there was so much inner monologue,
and all of it was just whining.
Yeah, and I feel like it was
my grandma hates me. My mum hates me.
Yeah, everyone hates me.
Literally,
except Orion.
And Orion hates me.
Well, I hate Orion.
Until he kissed me. Why did he kiss me? Is it because he hates me? He wants to kill me. Yeah, that was literally it.
Did they kiss in the first book?
Yeah, at the very end.
Oh, I don't even remember.
At the very end, she lays one on him.
What?
Yeah.
Actually, no, sorry. He lays one on her at the very end, and she's like, "Wait, what just happened?"
Yeah. And again, even then, she was just like, she's always in defense mode. That girl is just
But like, they literally start this book starts off with Orion saving her life,
and she's like, he saved
and
my
she's
life.
like, "Why the hell did you save my life? Like,
and
you
then
caused the issue for one, and then you had the audacity to save me from it." And she's just like,
and
"What did I do?"
keeps account. She's like, "You saved my life 6 times," and he goes 7.
But that's
like 11 times he saves her life.
But that's a little sweet treat for me, because it continued the entire series, and then she started saving his life, and then the Tally got a bit cute.
Well, he did get stuck in the school because of her.
Well, it was kind of his own fault. That's for the second book. Spoilers.
We won't talk about that.
We won't talk about
yes.
it.
Because I don't even know. But also just going off of that sort of the inner monologue thing, I felt one thing that really missed out on because of the inner monologue were certain sections which I felt were important, were very glossed over. Like, so there is a tool that I know that is used quite a bit in writing is when you tend to have similar conversations more than once. So, like, for example, 2 characters meet, they have a conversation, and then that event is relayed later on. Writers will use that. Well, they'll do the summary version. So rather than you having to sit through the same conversation twice, they'll go, "We discussed what happened," and they might give like a brief comment and then move on. To save, because you don't want to sit there and listen to the same conversation again.
That you just read.
Yeah, exactly. It can be quite tedious. But what I felt happened in this book is, like, there's one point where she talks about something with one person very briefly, like not even full details are mentioned. Then she goes to have a conversation with a group of people, and then that whole conversation, which would have had a lot more information about what the plan was glossed over in like 2 sentences. And I'm like, but I actually want to have that conversation with the characters.
When that was in the book.
But
I trust you.
After the library.
I trust you.
After which library?
After the Moormouth event with the library thing.
She was traumatized from killing the silly
so
monster.
she had that conversation. I'm just like, and I remember reading going, why are we skipping over that? But then you're giving me 2.5 pages of her talking about some random character's backstory that's not even relevant.
I think it's just that her entire monologue was really dominating the storyline. Well, there's a point to the book where they make it a point that her speaking negatively about herself, or like always saying people hate her, and someone points out, I think it was Chloe or Penelope, she was just like, people don't hate you and they're not even scared of you. Like, people just don't think about you because you're always just like running away from us. And I was just like, you couldn't have like put this together in the start.
It's not that deep, girl.
Yeah, like, she makes
not
that comment
deep.
that everybody hates her, but like no one knows her to hate her.
Then
she's just assuming that they're gonna hate her.
And then Chloe, like, you're the one who outcasts yourself. But then she also said that, like, but you are not afraid to be real and true to yourself. And that was the whole plot device of like why she's so whiny and stuff too. Like, I feel like that was shoved in there to be like, accept her as she is because she's the only one who's being real, while everyone else is just trying to like entice like these popular kids so they can be part of the enclaves. But in all honesty, I didn't see the realness of her at all in this book. Like, there was no tinge to like to see like her being like very real with it, because even when she was being real, like for example when they're fighting that monster and she's just like, you dumbass, like it's like this and this, do you not know how to do this? And I'm just like, you could have just said that nicely. Like, he probably just didn't know, because you clearly know the languages, he doesn't. Everyone has different skills. So even when it was like being real and stuff, like I just couldn't see that in her. I couldn't see like between the lines, and I tried to just for my people and my culture, I tried to, and I couldn't. I literally couldn't.
But in the later books, she was less whiny. I'll just say. She cried. I kept a cry count just for Alisha. I think she cried. I didn't count the first book. I'm sorry, but I think we said at least 1 per chapter, twice per chapter. So that was like at least 26. Like on average,
there's only 13 chapters.
It's not long. But then the second book, she cried 7 times. Like I didn't count whining. I just counted physical tears.
Yeah.
So 7 times, and then the third book was 11 times.
Can I talk about all the books we've read where they've gone to literal war, have been tortured, broken apart,
and they haven't cried,
and they didn't shed a single
Yeah.
tear?
I mean, she was emotionally distressed. Goodness.
By what?
Anyway.
No, I get it. No.
Well, I was just going to comment on the fact, the only other thing one of the main things I didn't like was the fact of the romance between Elle and Ryan. I don't, obviously it's a fake dating scenario, but generally you have, as the story goes along, and that fake dating generally is meant to turn into a real relationship.
Develop.
There's no tension.
No.
You don't feel a whole sense of the attraction builds, and that, there's no lingering touches or moments where you're ooh, this is getting somewhere. And God knows what happens in the following books with them.
Yes. Yeah, right.
I can imagine him just being oh, look at her eyes. I feel like that's the type
and she's sitting there going, I hate him.
I actually think this probably would have been better in a third person omniscient point of view, where we heard everybody's thoughts, because then that would have been way more entertaining.
We would have gotten to make Chloe or Penelope a little bit better.
Yeah. But also I feel like it wasn't hitting. Because I feel like Orion is in character and just in general, he's popular, but he doesn't want to be popular. He doesn't even realise he's popular, to be fair.
He's a bit dense.
He's kind of, he's dense. He's a lovable, he's a boy.
He's a boy.
He's a lovable moron, which is the problem.
Yeah,
he's
very
so nice. He's just trying to do what's best. He spends his entire thing, through the entire time he's been in this school, is he just wants to save people's life. And he literally goes around killing the monsters, throws himself into mortal peril, does not care about his own life, and just kills monsters, and that is what he's done his entire life.
Gryffindor of him.
And it actually makes, you do find out, I think it's near the end of the first book, that he's actually made, because of him, the school has the least amount of deaths it's ever had.
Yeah.
Because he's saving people. Yeah. But then that also means apparently it's making it worse for the seniors who are about to graduate, because there's more monsters than ever downstairs.
Yeah, because the monsters are getting killed.
So basically graduation, so seniors get to the very end of their course, and they all get dumped into graduation.
Like a hole or something.
It's like getting dumped into a gym.
Yeah.
So imagine it's a big empty space.
Yeah.
Similar to a gym.
And
but
there's
it
just
is infested with all the monsters of all sorts. They're all there. With that, so all the monsters, obviously, they start in the basement in this graduation hall, and throughout the year they climb up through the school to get to the different levels.
Not all of them.
Not all of them can. The smaller ones generally, they'll climb through the school to get to the students throughout the year.
Because they want to eat them.
But with Orion running around killing them all, less and less are up there, which means there's more down there, hungrier.
Yeah, they're more desperate.
Which makes the graduation day worse for the seniors.
Yeah, is that the seniors are then they've found a spot in the school on the bottom level, and they're trying to break the wall down because there's imperfection and
a weakness.
And so they've seen some little small monster crawling out of it, and so they're trying to break that to then let the monsters through to kill the rest of their classmates.
Basically, so the gym can empty out, so that they have a higher chance.
When they get dumped in, they'll be more fine.
I will say one thing I really liked about this book. Okay, really stretching it. What I liked about this book, and because you guys know me well, I love when characters are, or this school at least forces each and every character to be super morally grey, and there's no contention of what's the good way or the bad way. Sure, the students aren't fighting well, they are, but not directly fighting each other often.
Yeah, they don't go around killing each other.
Yeah,
well, actually,
they would rather let the monsters out and kill it.
There is a particular type of student. There's a name for them.
It's a Maleficent.
Yes.
Yeah, so basically these particular students, they have the ability to drain mana from other living
instead
creatures.
of building up their own, they'll steal it from others.
And so they are kind of they're like the proper outcast. So if you get found out you're one of them, nobody wants anything to do with you. But then you kind of a character who's actually, she's come off of it. So there is one of the girls which does end up becoming one of El's alliance.
It starts with L. I want to say Lydia, but that's from Crescent City. Nah.
No, it's something like that. She was draining people's mana to use it, but she actually...
No, she brought in mice.
Well, she brought in mice to drain it from.
It was the whole point...
Right, because they can still survive by draining mana, they just don't drain it from people.
So she brought in 10 mice. Her family forced her.
They're pet mice.
Literally to bring in these pet mice and to keep them alive so that over the 4 years she could drain their magic.
Yeah, she could drain it when she needed it.
The point was, can I say one thing?
Yeah.
I'll say one thing I disliked is Alisha's shocked.
Just one thing.
No, we've kind of discussed everything else. I'm a very visual person, and I love the descriptions, and I want to try and when you're reading, you have that mental image. Yeah. And
that movie playing in my head.
Yeah, literally, that's what I read for. I want to see the movie inside my brain. It tickles that itch.
Yeah. No, anyway, I agree.
Yeah, but so with all the monsters, they're constantly at threat, and they encounter so many different monsters. So the Moormouth was obviously this monster of all monsters and described quite well. Well, described more so.
I pictured Moormouths as Blobby from what's it called? It's the animated Transylvania.
Blobby.
No, Blobby.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure.
I don't know that.
Wait, the green slimy thing.
Yeah.
I know. But they're basically kind of slime and kind of human bits smooshed together.
It made me think of Blobby, but it's Hotel Transylvania, the animated movie.
Yeah.
There's literally a slime monster.
It's like a jelly almost.
It looks, it's Blobby. So that's why I pictured
Blobby.
his name's Blobby. That's how I pictured them all now. So if I will put an image on screen, that's how I'm picturing these monsters. But you're going to imagine it with razor sharp teeth.
Yeah. I did not quite picture it like that.
I didn't
Google him.
Yeah, anyway. But because they're so they're kind of described, but they encounter so many different monsters in every setting, and I'm I don't know what these are. And because she's around Orion and he kind of kills them kind of quickly, I'm I want to know more. If there was a monster encyclopedia, that would be perfect. I would love to read that. My whole point was coming down to the fact that I visually would have liked to seen maybe a diagram or something of the monsters. Yeah, an inanimate object. But it's so interesting. But I'm I want to picture that better. You're at school, surely someone's drawn diagrams or something. That would be so helpful to me to visually picture it.
I feel sometimes though, when it comes to when monsters or mystical creatures are included, some people go into very vivid detail.
Yeah.
Others don't. And I think it might not necessarily, it might also be because they kind of want to give it an air of a mysterious, for you to come to your own conclusion.
Not to give you all the details.
Versus some of them that are kind of if you you use a character that's actually from mythology or that's an established fantastical creature, it is well known.
Yeah, if you say a minotaur, we know exactly what creature.
That's a great one. Thank you. Hippogriffs, obviously, it's very common, I find, in a lot of fantasy books to have big birds.
I was going to say, do we want to get into this?
Yes.
I think I definitely struggle visually.
I think we should have a conversation about that book series and just talk about it.
I will draw it for you. Yeah, but
I'm going to find the image from the chat and I'm going to put it on the video.
If anyone's read Iron Flame, there are griffins in there with Jazzy pictured as a Pokemon.
I did, and that's the only way I could describe it to you guys. If that image is in my brain, I can't get it out of it. Yeah. And so when the siren spider rocked up, all I can picture is a spider. Is it a small spider? Is it a big spider? Is it an orange spider or a black spider? Does it have venom? Does it have fangs? Does it have little what is it?
It's just
I agree. I agree.
It's just a monster.
I'm not picturing anything special. It's a spider. Spider's a spider. So I feel
but I want to know.
Also, is it it could be a metal spider? Because I feel a lot of these monsters, the way she describes them, they weren't
they weren't just a spider. They were different.
They were kind of made up of different elements. So it wouldn't be like what you would naturally think a monster would be made up of.
Yeah.
Like, so at one point she's describing a monster. It's like made of metal or something.
Yeah. I can't even remember.
I can't remember which one it is. There at some point she mentions it. She gives a very brief description, but it's like made up of metal. And I was like, oh, that's a bit different.
Yeah.
But it's also unique. How they also, like, a lot of them also seem to have very, I said blobby. That type of like kind of like a gooey consistency,
like it's
because they also like squish through like vents and morph into other shapes
and like
which is what the Moormouth is. It's very much just like a big blobby form that kind of like just literally like she almost gets eaten by one at some point, and she literally describes it as like encasing around her and like slowly going.
I feel like if I jumped into a pool of jelly, that's how I would feel.
I literally think
what's my point? I just wanted more visual detail.
We'll start this one. I think there was a lot of mention, and I think this, like a lot of books do this already, where they try to be very inclusive but like don't really flesh out, and it's not meaningful inclusivity.
Oh, I think for this book we could just take a seat over there and just let it go.
This is not a rant, and I want your opinions as well. Okay. No, so I think, like, first of all, Ella's character was half Welsh, half Marathi Indian. And I know you've read the rest of the trilogy, and she does visit India or whatever. Yeah. But I think, like, sometimes, and I see this in books quite often, but it didn't. I think this one was more so forced, or felt a lot more forced, because, like, a lot of people had magical abilities and, like, linguistic abilities, and it was just, like, there was no meaning to it. Like, her being half Marathi had no consequence to anything in the story. Yeah, I guess so. But then there was also, like, and that's fine, like, I don't really care about that part, but then why it felt super forced sometimes, like, when I was reading it, was, for example, what was that? There was another mention of, like, Arabic speakers and stuff like that, or, like, there was another mention of dreadlocks, and, like, it was just all mentions, and, like, it just felt like a way to be more inclusive and diverse, but, like, you can have a very meaningful connection to whatever culture you want to do. Again, going back to the mortal instrument. What I love about that series is, like, it is super inclusive. It dwells into different cultures. It dwells into their conclaves being in different parts of, like, the world, and there being different shadow hunter systems, and they really, like, even with the symbols and the runes and stuff, it, like, matches, like, certain cultural differences. So it doesn't just feel like it's just been mentioned. It feels like there's been a real good deep dive into.
Yeah, I don't think this was fleshed out.
Because this is a young adult book.
Yeah.
This is very young adult. It's aimed for teenagers who already are growing and trying to learn about the world around them, and they're kind of restricted to what they see around school or what they read, and reading is, like, such an important way to
for sure
sort of, like, learn a little bit more about the world that you wouldn't see on a regular basis. And I feel like
that's why you read.
That's why Sarah reads.
Well, that's why I think, like, when I think about kids, or if I think about my
it's good to get that bigger
kids,
perspective.
like, absolutely, and the magic and the fantasy and the escapism, but we learn so much through it, like, that
we do, we do.
Well, and I think the author was, like, so, like, it was so smart of her to include it that way into that book, but I also, like, the lack of fleshing it out sometimes can end up having a negative impact. Like, it reinforces stereotypes of beliefs without, if you don't flesh it out, like, it sticks with that.
I'll jump in. I didn't think it was important that she was from that particular region. It was just important that it was a different, like, enclave. Like, that's the only thing.
Like, for example, take Spark of the Everflame, okay?
Yeah.
I'm going to just hopefully assume a lot of our readers have read that.
If not, go read it now.
It will change your life.
Yeah.
And just destroy you.
So there's different kingdoms. They have their different kind of, like, settings, their different backgrounds, and even within
I just want to do this.
Even within Luminous Kingdom, which is where the main characters Luther and Tiem are from, they look different. They have different traits and customs, because obviously that book has shown us that, like, there's different cultures, there's different customs between the mortals, between the descendants,
and they make
obviously that's a take on, like,
obvious.
real life, like, where you come from different places, you have different cultures, and that blah 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 blah. That book has flashed it out, and many other books flash it out because they create this entire world from scratch. But Deadly Education references different cultures that truly exists
in the real world.
In the real world.
Yeah.
So you can't just name it for representation like that, because it's like a Netflix movie where you just put like a bunch of POC people and
like, there's my gay character, there's my black character. You can't do that.
It's like a checklist that she's trying to meet those requirements.
And I think there was controversy in certain parts, because there was like a whole thing about like dreadlocks and like they shouldn't tie their hair because there's like leeches monsters, and I'm like, I understand in the
I don't even remember that bit.
Yeah, and I was just like, when I read that I was like, damn, I would not say that. But I understand it for the in the universe, but again, it's a young adult book. You're basically tying it to unhygienic purposes when that is someone's hair and that has huge history and like
and it's an urban fantasy. It's not it's not like it's there was no one who ever had dreadlocks before. It was very much from a culture, and it's in our like earth, like it has that weight to it,
and it was like,
that history.
It was an important one that I was like But I will say the author did apologize for the ignorance with that one. Like,
did she? Oh, that's good.
Did. Yeah, she was
like, she acknowledged
absolutely.
that.
And I just want to point it out, like, again,
that's
writing a book and putting all of this and like making it so magnificent is so hard, and we can be like nitty picky as like readers, and it's not hard to judge and critique. That's kind of like what we're best at anyway.
True.
And she did apologize for like certain comments that were made within the book that weren't intentional, and I don't think
it's about intention as well.
Yeah, but it comes off that way, especially when your audience is young adult.
Yes.
So it's so important to be like careful with those things.
I find that there's a lot of that with books though, is people like there's obviously comments everywhere about all sorts of number of massive authors like Rebecca Yarros and Sarah J Maas, and there's all this commentary about they're disrespecting this culture, they're disrespecting that, blah 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 blah, and it's like half the time I feel like a lot of the things what people focus on too much are things that are just not intentional.
Yeah.
Because there are definitely people who take the piss.
Yeah.
Like, definitely.
Yeah.
People who just don't give a shit. They go, I'm going to use
and
it because I want to use it. I don't care what people think.
Yeah,
very much so.
There are authors that do it intentionally, and that could speak to, like, their mindset and their views. And I don't condone hate on anyone or any culture. But, again, there's authors that don't do it intentionally. It's just about being careful, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, just about being careful and, like, being a little bit more, I guess, sensitive or just like understanding. And sometimes it's as easy as just asking a person that is from that particular
going to find the answers.
Doing that extra mile of research.
Yeah.
Or if you don't feel comfortable doing that, or if you don't think you can
choose something else, or
just don't include it.
Because literally, as a Marathi person, her background had no, like,
it didn't have a weight. It wasn't
whatsoever.
Yeah.
It was like she was just trying to tick the diversity box.
And the worst thing is, like, this could be a very personal thing maybe, because I'm an Indian and I live in Australia, and not that makes much of a difference to like how I'm raised or how I live my life, but obviously, like, there's going to be stark differences in how I live my culture compared to how the world around me in Australia works. Similarly to Elle, if she's half Marathi, you would want to see some nuances.
Well, there was no mention of like religion or belief, which I would
like,
be strong.
Fully Welsh, and it wouldn't have made a single difference. And it kind of feels like sometimes, and this is something a lot of people struggle with during school, especially, is trying to like fit in with the people around them, as well as like hold their identity,
their own value and culture.
It kind of sucked to see like she didn't try.
It wasn't important.
She didn't even want to know about her culture, from what I could tell. Like, she's learned Sanskrit and Hindi and all these things.
But she was forced to, because if she didn't, then she wouldn't have the skills to survive.
Like, her grandma had this prophecy and all this stuff, and it was just like, but like, why include that bit anyway? Like, it kind of felt like the struggle I've dealt with sometimes, where I'm like, I'm just trying to be like the person
you're hanging out with,
like a common Australian would try to be like, and it took so long to accept that no, I like my culture and I like where I come from, so I'm gonna thread both and just become my version of me. So that was like a little bit like, I think it's just because of that personal experience, I could see like it made no difference, and it's just like a checkbox thing. But would love to see more Marathi representation, but with a bit more meaning,
but with
and
importance,
substance. A little bit, But she did apologize, so I don't feel like, again, not an intentional thing.
She's acknowledged it.
Yeah.
That's the main part. But and overall ratings, let's go. Jazzy, do you want to start us off?
Well, I rated it 2.5 stars.
Ooh.
Yeah. Was there anything else I could say?
Any final thoughts about it or reasoning for rating?
Huh? I don't know. I did really enjoy the setting and I would recommend it, but I feel like you kind of do have to read the whole trilogy because I think I got so much more out of the first book because I read the third book and all the callbacks and like plot twists. They were set up from the first book and from the like backstory of the characters. So the whole series worked. And
so
I
read
think
the whole series as one
like
book.
I would
3 books.
exactly.
It's
I
not
think
a big book.
no,
It
genuinely.
just takes forever to get through.
They were all like 300 pages ish, but I think the only reason maybe she split it was because it was per year, and so the first book was their second last year,
junior, senior, and then.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. Like, and then the third year was like they've just finished school, and now like what are they doing with their lives?
Does that mean that the entire second book? So because like so A Deadly Education only goes through like what 6 weeks? It's like 6 weeks or something.
I don't remember.
Does that mean the second book's one whole year?
It's like a year, yeah. But it starts directly from the second the first book ends.
That's a very big pace jump.
It is, but in the second book, which I enjoyed much more, was because she's trying to bring everyone together. So it was a very gradual thing. And so you saw from book 1 where all the enclaves hate each other, or like, you know, they're all divided and whatever. But then in book 2, they have to come together. Kind of
like one big alliance with everybody.
Yeah, to then get out. Anyway, but I really enjoyed the series as a whole.
So you recommend the series, not the standalone?
Yeah, I think that's where I sit with it. Yeah, it makes more sense to.
So either go big or go home.
Yeah, pretty much. 2.5.
I mean, if you're a dark academia reader,
put it on a t-shirt.
Dark macadamia reader.
That one reader, and you're like comparing different kinds of those similar tropes, then you may as well just give it a go and see how you find it. I think.
What do you rate it?
Oh yeah, my rating is 1. I think as someone who really cares about details in books and like likes to connect points and stuff, it was very much dominated by Elle's monologues and whining, and it was just a really hard read for me personally. I do see the potential in like the school and the world building. It's just I couldn't care because I just couldn't care about the main character, and everything was centered around her, and we don't even flesh out the rest of the characters, like the friendships and stuff. They're just like not there. Like her and Chloe become friends by the end of the book, but I'm just like, I don't care about your relationship that much.
Yeah.
Like I just didn't see it happening. But I think it's fun. I really don't like. I wouldn't recommend it.
You don't need to justify it.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it.
Like it.
I think there's so many better dark academia books out there. Or Harry Potter for starters, just reread it again.
Yeah.
Or like, what was the one you read? The Discovery of Witches. Is that academia?
No.
Oh, that's not.
But it would be better in
what's the
opinion.
vampire one? There's
Zodiac Academy?
Zodiac Academy?
That's another dark.
Is that vampire?
I haven't read that one, to be honest.
It's witches.
I have no idea. I've never read it.
Let us
I think
know,
it's vampires,
please.
but I've been
Should we
recommended
read
that
it?
so many times, and apparently that's a really good.
12 books.
That's why I haven't picked up. But that's another one that I've heard really good things. Immortal Dark is another one that I've heard really good things. Haven't read any of these because clearly that's not my trope of books, but there's much better ones that I feel like you could find to read about.
And
yeah.
I feel like for you, well, for all of us, but we want like, that character driven. If you don't like the character, you're not going to persist through
and
a series.
also just plot as well. Like I feel like it wasn't fleshed out because it just had so much just straight pages and pages of her talking and talking and talking
Actually,
about ridiculous
in
stuff.
her mind.
So, like I said, similar thing for Law, how I preferred the past over the future. I feel like I would have preferred this story if it was just her out in the real world dealing with the enclaves and fighting the monsters.
Which was book 3.
But we have to read
I'm
two
not ready
books
to
together.
Okay, so
I can summarize book 2 for you.
No, I'm good.
I'm good.
Good, thank you.
Anyway, that's my rating. 1 and 5 would not recommend. Would rather recommend any other dark academia book.
Okay. So for myself, I also gave it a 2.5.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
So I will not be continuing with the series.
A DNF.
No, the series, yes. Book, no. I finished the book.
But you don't own the rest of the series.
No, I don't. I bought the first book because it was a pretty cover.
Yeah. But it was easy for me to read because I already had
you had
the series there on my ebook.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. But yeah, so 2.5. Mainly because I would have given it less, But I do think there is an audience for this book. I do think there are definitely people who would enjoy this series. While I personally would not recommend it myself because I found no enjoyment in it, I do think there's definitely people who will enjoy this. So it's on my rating scale, it's a meh. Yeah. That's my twos are a meh. So like it's a meh. It's not like if I was to give it a 1, I would mean like it's absolute, like it's terrible.
Yeah.
Like which is fair. But it's also like for me, like I think it has its moments. But yeah, it's definitely So
and there is an audience for it because clearly you read the trilogy.
Yeah.
Like you might not be the direct audience for it, but you could get through. I could not have.
And I also think for younger readers, younger readers who haven't read a lot of the other stuff, they may very
intro. Yeah, it's an easy
for that type of vibe.
Yeah.
It's not overly complicated. It doesn't go too.
So someone will reach for Harry Potter before this book for sure,
probably.
because of the popularity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
yeah, okay.
So what's our overall rating then?
It would be a 2.
A 2.
Or 1.5. 1.75 would probably actually be the average.
Yeah, 1.75
out of 5
for Deadly Education. Yep. From the girlies that read.
That's what I thought.
If a book starts talking, I'm out. Thank you so much for watching, guys. We hope you have enjoyed today's discussion. I think we had a really good discussion today. There was a lot of fun topics that we did touch on. If there is any topics that you guys have heard us mention, whether it be books, just general publishing,
anything from Book Talk, Bookstagram,
anything that you want us to hear us talk about more, please leave it in the comments below. Even leave if you've read A Deadly Education, we'd love to hear your opinions. Do you like it? Do you not like it? Like, where do you fall in that?
What are your thoughts? What are not on the whole series? I need to know from my personal opinion because I cannot discuss with these guys.
You need someone to be in her corner.
We're not going to continue.
Please.
Absolutely not.
Message us.
But if you do want to see more content from us, we will have plenty more coming your way. We will have a monthly book that we will discuss. When we get around to recording those will depend on when they come out.
If you have any book recommendations,
yes, book recommendations,
you should tell us.
Yes.
And we're not fussy when it comes to genre. We do heavily tend to lean towards fantasy, but even if it's contemporary, thriller, historical, like, you know, anything. Drop it in the comments. No self-help books. If someone recommends a self-help book, I'm blocking you on everything.
Just Sarah.
But yes, but do so. Make sure you subscribe to our channel to see more content. You can find us all at these links: Instagram, TikTok, the works. And we thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time.
Yes. Bye from the girls that read.